All right, guys. Well, it's about 3 after 2, so we'll go ahead and get started. So today's presentation is on strength training. So of course, I mean, I'm sure you guys are already well aware of a lot of the benefits, but just in case you needed a reminder, I'm going to be sure to go over the benefits, kind of what it is, the basics as far as things to keep in mind when you're doing strength training. And then more importantly, once we get through all that introductory stuff, I'm really going to go over some tips on how you can maintain or even build on a lot of the work that you did in the wellness center or in the fitness center when you were able to use weights. So I know a lot of people don't have any equipment at home, and there's definitely still different strategies that you can employ that will help you to maintain or possibly even build muscle and burn fat, just like you were trying to do when you were able to work out at the wellness center or at your local gym.
Did I bring my towel in?
So having said that, just a couple of the reasons why we should build strength. And I'm sure these are all well known, but it doesn't hurt to go over them again and just drill them home. Number one is develop strong muscles, bones, and tendons. You also protect your joints by doing strength training. You can improve balance and stability, especially when you do unilateral or single-sided movement, strength movements. In addition to this, it helps prevent injuries. It supports a healthy weight because obviously the more muscle you have that you gain through strength training, the more metabolically active tissue that you have, which allows you to burn more calories at rest. And then finally, it helps to preserve and enhance muscle mass at any age. So we'll do a little test your knowledge. True or false, losing strength and muscle tone as we age is preventable? What do y'all think?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So, it's important to keep in mind that even after 30, which, oh gosh, I just turned 30 the other day, so I have to come to grips with this too.
What's 30?
You start losing muscle mass at a higher percentage, and then that obviously into your 40s, 50s, and on, it accelerates even faster. So it's very important that you're consistently doing resistance and strength training to maintain that muscle so that we don't lose it as we age. So how much? It's important that you warm up. So if you have ever taken any of our group exercise classes or personal training sessions, you know that we always employ a warm-up before you start. This helps prevent injuries, and it gets the muscles that are getting ready to be worked prepared for the activity. Then a complete strength training workout can be accomplished in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. Ideally, more is better to a certain point, but just know that even a little bit, as little as 15 or 20 minute sessions each day can certainly help you gain and maintain strength. It's important with strength training that you train at least 2 days per week. That is the minimum effective volume or frequency that studies have shown will allow you to A, make gains, and B, maintain what you do have. Then it's also important to cool down. So don't just finish your workout and just leave. That's where the static stretching comes in, which again, if you've taken any of our foam rolling as well, if you've taken any of our group exercise classes or personal trained with us, you know that that's something. And then, of course, if you have any concerns and you haven't been strength training previously, then, of course, we always recommend that you talk to your doctor. So the basics. This is very rudimentary, but you want to choose exercises that train all the major muscle groups. This ensures that you have a well-rounded routine and that you're not making one muscle group really strong on one side of the joint and then neglecting one on the other side, which typically is going to lead to pain. So that's where a lot of knee pain comes from, especially for runners. They're doing a lot of running and not much else. And that running is really big, really big on working the muscles on the anterior side of the body. So that's the front side of the body. So the quads are typically really tight. And then a lot of runners don't do strength training, so they neglect the muscles on the back side of the body, which in turn is a big reason why runners have issues with patellotendinitis and things of that nature. So it's important that you start with a movement or resistance that you can do 8 to 12 times with proper form. Now that 8 to 12 is not set in stone. Really the important thing when it comes to doing exercise, any strength training exercise for a given amount of reps, is that you're working close to failure. I'll talk about that a little later, but what I want you to know is 8 to 12 is typically what we suggest for muscle building, but it is by no means a hard window that you have to stay within. And then furthermore, as you progress, it's important that you move to a more challenging version of a movement, do more reps, or gradually increase the weight. So this is what we call progressive overload. It is a very important, it's very important to keep that in mind when you're doing any sort of strength training, because the body is very good at basically getting good at a certain movement or resistance. And then you're not going to be stressing those muscles once they become accustomed to that movement or that weight over time. So that's why it's really important to try to progress your weights or your reps, or like this says right here, try a challenging version of a movement. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Well, how do we add weight when we're at home and we don't have weights? So if that's the case, there's no problem. I want to touch on those ways in just a second before I give you guys tips on how to increase difficulty without having weights on hand. I do want to go over just a couple important things to keep in mind when you are doing any sort of strength training. As we discussed a couple slides ago, it's important that you warm up. A warm-up could be as simple as walking to get the heart rate elevated and the body warmed up. But it should also include a couple warm-up sets of whatever resistance training exercise you're getting ready to do. So if you're going to be working legs, it's important that you start, like if you're starting with a squatting movement, that you start with a low weight, much lower than what you're anticipating to use for your working sets. And that helps to grease the groove, so to speak, and get those muscles ready. In addition to that, it's important that you focus on slow and controlled movements. We're taxing the muscle more when we go slow. So it's not to say that fast movements are not important, but as far as injury prevention goes, and then actually working the muscle to the best of our abilities, focusing on slow and controlled movements is the ticket. In addition to that, keep good posture and a slight bend in your joints. So good posture, I'm sure you guys already know this, but good posture means really focusing on that neutral spine and neutral pelvis. And so that means no overarching the back, and then no turtle shelling the back either. You want to kind of be right in between. And then the slight bend refers to really any movement you do. There should be, at no point should you have your joints completely locked out. What that does is that makes the joints take all the weight, whether it be your body or added resistance, and takes it away from the musculature. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you're focusing on breathing. So you're always going to be breathing out as you lift, pull, or push. In other words, when you're exerting yourself. So you're breathing in as you return to the starting position or before you do whatever is the hardest part of the movement. So obviously for the squat, you would be inhaling on the way down because gravity's helping you on the way down. Then you're pushing your body weight and gravity and whatever additional resistance you're using. So it's important that you breathe out at that time. Breathing out helps to kind of tighten everything as far as your core goes and will help to reduce injuries. In addition to that, it's important that you cool down and do static stretching afterwards. We've discussed this previously too, but strength training by and large shortens the muscles. Most muscles, bicep curl, the muscle contracts as I do the movement. And so doing a bunch of strength training without stretching is going to leave the muscles in a more shortened position, which in turn could lead to injury over time. So it's important that you do some static stretching afterwards as well. And then most importantly, if you feel pain, stop, and rest is your friend. Obviously, there is certain workouts, like circuit workouts, where you would like to keep the rest lower because you're trying to burn more calories. But depending on your goal, especially if your goal is to build muscle or build strength, it's important to really follow proper rest protocols. So this is typically resting at least 30 to 60 seconds. And for strength training, that number goes up even more. I mean, you could even rest 3 to 5 minutes between sets if you're using a very heavy weight and going for very low reps. So the take home there is just don't ignore rest. Rest is very important for you to get the most out of a given exercise. And then here comes my practical tips that you can take with you. If there's nothing else you take from this presentation, it's this stuff right here. So some considerations for you guys to still maintain and even gain muscle with little to no equipment or access to a fitness center. These are a couple ways you can employ all these, only one. The important thing, and you're going to notice the recurring theme here, is that sets are being taken close to failure. So the first way that you can possibly maintain and even gain muscle with little to no equipment is doing really hard body weight exercises for low to medium reps. So this would be typically under 15 and going close to failure. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering what the asterisk is for and how do I do hard body weight exercises? What consists of hard? What makes a body weight exercise hard? I'll go over that in the next slide on ways you can do that. But you can also make a body weight exercise harder by adding load. I know a lot of us don't have weights at home, and traditional weights like dumbbells or barbell and plates, but you could definitely use a backpack filled with books. You could go outside, grab a rock. You could use some bands if you have those. You could, if you have a child or a small dog that would enjoy being put on your back as you do push-ups. You could definitely, those are all ways to add load without having what we traditionally think of as resistance training equipment. And if you guys haven't checked already, we've put out many exercises employing like backpacks. Joe did a gallon jug one the other day. We've used towels before. So the options are really endless, and they're only basically as big as your imagination. So start taking a look around your house now and figuring out what you could use. Another way is to focus on squeezing the working muscle as hard as possible at peak contraction. So this is known as an isometric exercise, where at the top so if I were doing a push-up, when I press away from me and I am squeezing my hands together, they're not actually moving on the floor, but that is going to actually tax the muscle more than if I wasn't paying attention to squeezing that muscle. So if you were doing, kickbacks or something, squeezing at the very top is going to get that tricep to work a little harder. So that's another way that you could do that. And then finally, if you don't want to opt for a harder body weight version exercise, you could always do easier body weight exercises. So your typical body weight squats, push-ups, you could take those close to failure and make up for the fact that you're doing the easier version by doing more sets or adding more volume. So most routines are going to recommend 2 to 3 sets. Maybe you do more if you're just doing a body weight squat and not adding any resistance. And the important thing is you can still make gains even doing something as simple as a body weight squat if you're doing enough of them. And in addition to that, if you're employing other ways that you can make that considered easy body weight exercise harder. So I've got a couple words on the screen here that can show you how to do this. So how can I make bodyweight exercises harder? So the first way is going to be by utilizing tempo. And this also includes pauses. So if we slow down that bodyweight squat and we try to make it a 3 or 4 second lower before we get to the bottom, that's definitely going to make it harder than if we were just letting gravity drop us to the bottom and then come right back up. So try doing this if you're doing these more simple bodyweight exercises, and you'd be surprised how much harder it is to do it that way. Along with tempo, pauses are included in here. So I don't know if you guys have ever tried pausing at the bottom of a push-up or pausing at the bottom of a squat, but it definitely increases the intensity of the exercise. So that's another thing you could do. In addition to that, you can increase the range of motion or change the body position. So maybe you could do, instead of doing just a bodyweight squat, maybe you do a single leg squat to your couch, where instead of having all your body weight on both legs, you've only got it on one leg. That's a way of changing the body position. And then possibly I could even use a step stool to go down to instead of my couch, which is a little higher. And in doing that, that increases the range of motion that I'm using in that squat, which is going to tax the muscles more. So increasing that range of motion and or changing the body position and going single leg can definitely, or single arm can definitely help to make that body weight exercise harder. In addition to that, you can add to the complexity. So you can chain exercises together to add to the complexity of the movement. So for example, instead of just doing a bodyweight squat, you could add a calf raise at the top. So you're pressing through your heels to complete the squat. As soon as you come up, then you're coming up on your toes. You could even add a jump to it. So adding to the complexity of the movement is another way that you can make bodyweight exercises harder. Then the last way that you can do this is by adding resistance. So as I just spoke about in the last slide, obviously the ideal scenario for this is having weights, having dumbbells, having bands, having barbells and plate weights. But obviously we're not in the ideal scenario right now. So perhaps you've got books, gallon jugs that you can fill with sand or water. Maybe you have a pet or a child. And the good thing about having children that you can use as weights is the progressive overload is built in because they're gaining weight constantly as they're younger. So just one positive there. But think of ways that you can utilize non-traditional equipment and things around your house that can turn into makeshift weights. And so just to go over kind of a way, like I want to give you guys some examples of using that tempo, range of motion, adding complexity and adding resistance. I want to give you guys some take-home examples of this. So our first is going to be a wall push-up. So we're going from easiest to hardest here. So obviously a wall push-up, you don't have as much body weight here as you do if you were on the floor. So you could start here. Then if that's too easy for your 8 to 12 reps, you could go to a modified position from the knees. And if that's still too easy for those 12 reps, then you can move to a full push-up. And if that's still too easy, then we can increase the range of motion by going from a deficit. So you see in this picture here, she's using weight plates. You could easily use textbooks or any other hard surface that's even height. And that's going to increase the range of motion for the chest muscles that are the primary movers in that push-up. So that's one example. The next one is for the posterior chain for the glutes. So this is, you could do a glute bridge, which helps strengthen the glutes, low back, and hamstrings. Obviously, going from the floor is going to be easiest. Next, we could change the body position. So here, you'll see the person is using a single leg instead of two legs. So that's changing the base of support. It's adding a little bit of core work, and it's also adding all the body weight behind one and making only one leg lift that up and one glute as opposed to both. And then even still harder than that, we can increase the range of motion by doing a hip thrust, which is elevating our back so that we're not on the floor. So you could, here shows a picture of a bench with weights, but you could easily do this using your couch or a chair where you elevate your back on the chair. And then maybe you could have a backpack filled with weights that you rest on your hips, and then you can drive up. So, in this example, you're getting an enhanced range of motion that makes it harder, and you're also able to add a little bit of weight using a backpack or a milk jug or something like that. So my question for you guys is, what are you going to do next? Try one new resistance exercise or variation this week. Maybe it's one of the ones I just showed you, or perhaps it's one of the many different variations that we're putting out each and every day with our workout of the days. In addition to that, you could complete a strength-based workout of the day, which most of ours are, that we're putting out daily. Then finally, contact one of us for a personalized exercise prescription. We're willing to put together something that's going to allow you to still maintain or gain muscle. Just reach out to me, Joe, or Jessica. Let us know what kind of equipment you have or don't have, and we can definitely put something together for you. Then finally, talk with your doctor before you start if this is something that you're just starting up with. But I know most of you guys on the call have already been doing some resistance training, so possibly try to pick one of the top 3 things. And then finally, these are just a couple websites if you guys want to look into more strength training information. These are a lot of the major exercise and strength-based associations. A lot of us, or basically me, Joe, and Jess all have certifications through these organizations. So there's lots of good information that you can take from them. We ran a couple minutes over, but that's all I got for you guys. Do y'all have any questions?
No.
No? Okay.
No?
Well, we miss y'all. Hope we can see you soon.
Yeah.
We sure do.
Yeah.
For the workout of the day, I got to see if I can find, we haven't been doing that. So I just go to, I think I got an email about it. So I go there and hit those buttons and the new one will come up.
Yeah, so the best thing to do, Terry, will be to go to our website, which is billcoorswellnesscenter.wordpress.com. And
down.
yeah, we'll drop it in I can drop it in the chat for you too.
Cool.
So you can just click
you.
it. But yeah, and I'll email it to you. Yeah, so going to our website is definitely the best way to see everything that we put out so far, because the workout of the day email that we send is only sends it each day, so it doesn't cover all the ones we've done in the past. But if you go to the website, we have a workout section, and I'll send that to you in an email. You can scroll down and see every workout that we've put out for the past month.
Wow, that'll keep me busy. Okay, I would appreciate your sending me that again. Thanks. 'Cause
Yeah, no problem.
We're only doing strength once a week when dear sweet Jessica sends us one.
Yeah, so the challenge for you guys would be to try to add another day. See if you can get another day in. Yep. And then
Oh yeah. I'm tired of cleaning out cabinets.
I was gonna say we all have plenty of time, so no excuses.
Yeah, we try to walk every day, but we're only doing strength once a week so far.
Gotcha. And that's good though. Yeah, just see if you can't try to add another day. I mean, you could even do the same workout that Jess is giving you another day. Just make sure you're giving yourself a day in between reps.
Do it twice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I am going to try the workout of the day.
Look, there's
the good thing about that is it's good variation.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
If
And
anyone
thank you.
else wants to be added to the email distribution list, just let us know. We can add you to that. But yeah, otherwise, everything's on our email, which is billcoorswellnesscenter.wordpress.com. So that's
Or the website, yeah.
which press?
I think